Jan speaking here from my Gunther Fehlinger Podcast. I'm very happy that you join. Here in this decisive moment of world history, I start also to live stream. It's a new thing for me. Thanks a lot for joining, and thanks a lot for the 100 new subscribers. And please, subscribe this podcast and this channel. I want to make it grow. It's the voice of the free world in Austria, and from Austria we broadcast for freedom, for prosperity, for security, for NATO enlargement, for the EU enlargement, for Albania, for Macedonia, for Montenegro, but also, of course, for Ukraine to be in NATO and in the EU. And of course, we want liberation, freedom universally, everywhere in the world. This is what we want, and this is what we want to achieve. And I'm calling here for a very clear policy of regime change of Iran. And I just want to make sure that I have the right format here. I think I will do it here because then I can also read what you're writing to me. If you want to ask me some questions, this is the moment. I have now half an hour time and I will answer all your questions. And if you send me some presents, I'm also using it for the spreading the gospel of freedom here globally. And of course, that's my little altar. I want to show you. That's how I live. Yeah. This is, of course, Dr. Busek, famous Austrian politician and friend of the Balkans of Ukraine, one of my heroes. The Declaration of Kosovo Independence, the NATO flag, and the EU flag. And here, one of the awards which I got in the past. And here I have the special drawer with all my flags, NATO flag inside. But today I will not do any flag stands. If you ask me for that, I can also do that. I have all the flags of all the good countries here. Nevertheless, what is now important, we are entering the moment, it's like the Pearl Harbor moment, the one decisive moment where the world power is tipping and America is entering the war. America has a huge armada now in the Middle East, and America is entering this global war. I don't use the word world war, but it's a global war. We, the West, the free world, against our enemies, Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea. It's not kinetic in China still. It's not North Korea has already fought against us in Ukraine. The Iranians have also delivered a lot of support for Russia. And once now the Americans, and this is so decisive, like 1917, like 1941, 42, once the Americans really engage in the war, the whole industrial, financial, technology and military muscle of America is ready for the free world. And it doesn't matter if you defeat the Russians in Ukraine, because that we can do and the Ukrainians can do. But if you draw and sap the resources of the Russians out because you defeat the second ally after Venezuela, now Iran, and that means that Russia is defeated as a global player. Nobody will work with Russia anymore because the Americans regime change country by country. And that's the big thing. Of course, Mr. Trump has the choice not to act in the coming days. He can squander that opportunity. It's always possible. But then Iran will have nuclear weapons, and it will be on his record that he has watched and under his watch that nuclear Iran is real. And he has campaigned all his life against nuclear Iran. So I really don't think he will squander that opportunity. And that is absolutely the situation. So we are in really decisive moments of world history, and the Iranians have made it all possible. Of course, it's a result of the economic measures we have taken and the result of the desire of the defeat in the 12-day wars in 2025. And of course, a lot of factors come together: climate change, the mismanagement of the economy, of the environment, of the water management. It's simply a corrupt and disastrous regime. It should have never come to power. This was one of the tragic accidents of world history. There are three of them, really. 1917, the most brutal of the most crazy socialists came to power in Russia, and this great power was dominated by a completely ridiculous, crazy, brutal force. And they, by the coincidence and tragedy of the consequent history, which they were very much responsible, they have won in Asia the biggest country of the world. In China, they won the civil war. Stalin won it for Mao. And then this was the second biggest disaster. And of course, the third one was the Iranian regime, this terrorist regime, the most brutal form of the Islamist terror regime. Khamenei was succeeding to take power in the chaos of the post-Shah government, and he has imposed his terrible extreme form of Islamism on the very powerful and rich country of Iran. And so these three big empires of the past, Russia, China and Iran, were all dominated by freak accidents of the history, by the most freak forces of world history. And that's a disaster, and we have to all redraw that and make good again, starting with Iran. And of course, Russia will then break into pieces. I have made many videos about the breakup of Russia, which is my ultimate aim, what I'm calling, and that's what I will also propose. And I have proposed it already. If you go and I have published, co-published, I've written an article in the book about the end of Russia. This is on freenations.com, post-Russian forum, ex-Russia, I call it. It's more, that's what I want. I can read some of your things here. What do you think about independence of Tatarstan, Bashkortostan? Yes, you have to declare, you have to fight for freedom. I absolutely endorse the ex-Russia concept, and there will be 41 new states out of Russia, and we all have to learn the successor states, and that's very, very important. You need to learn them. You need to study that, because otherwise you are suddenly surprised the world is changing. And I have always believed in the freedom of Poland, of Slovakia, of Hungary, of Kosovo, and it came. Freedom is inevitable, and it's indivisible, and it works, and it's coming. And now 2026, it is coming because of American power and the attractiveness of the American and European model, because the people want to live in freedom, prosperity, security, and they want to do that everywhere, and it's universal. And ex-America, no, that's of course a joke, guys. America is the greatest nation on this planet and will forever be, no matter what Trump and ICE and all this nonsense. But this is about the situation. Yes, I think there's a lot of people here from Russia. That's good. You know, you have to, of course, work to overthrow Putin. Putin is a disaster for your nations, and you are buried in this bunker of nations, and you will be liberated, and liberation moment will be coming very soon. So prepare. Yes, China is a little bit less dangerous. They have not attacked us up to now, but they are economically, politically in the enemy camp. And if they really use kinetic violence, they will be also confronted. But at the moment, we have to treat them like a co-ally in the axis of evil. That means less trade, less cooperation, and of course confronting them in all sectors which are non-kinetic. That's unfortunate, but that's exactly what needs to happen. Good, guys. This was my live here from Gunther Fehlinger Podcast. I thank you very much for your attention, and I will come back tomorrow. And thanks a lot for listening to me. And send also some subscribe and likes on all my platforms, and I will entertain you, and I will inform you, and I will keep you posted. The coming days will be really very exciting, and I'm looking very much forward. Thanks a lot.